What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So, today we're going to make a real nerdy video, but I've been kind of nerding out on this topic right here the past week or two, so I kind of wanted to talk about it. We're going to talk about IEMs, or in-ear monitors. So, I've got some different kinds here, and we're kind of going to go over them, and I'm just going to kind of give you my opinion of them. I got 3 different sets. There's 2 sets in here and 1 in here. We're going to go over these different sets and kind of like my pros and cons of them and which ones I recommend and which ones I don't. So this isn't a sponsored video or anything. I bought all this with my own money. So, and I've been using some of these, like this set that we'll get to is like a brand new set that I just started using. And these are ones I've had for a couple years and I've used a lot. So we'll break it down. So let's start with the first set of in-ear monitors I ever got. So that's this case. It's a Behringer set. So the first time my band decided to go with an in-ear rig, I just needed something quick and cheap. And so I just ordered the first set of in-ear monitors I could find, basically, you know. And they happened to be this Behringer set. And it came with this little case, you know. It's nice. It's okay. Like, it's a decent little case. And this is what this is what they look like. Get them untangled here. Probably should have done this before I turned the camera on, but whatever. Here's what they look like. And so you can see they have a detachable cable. If I can get it. Yep, there we go. They have a little detachable cable. And it's neat, but the one issue that I have with like this style of detachable cable is that most other IEM companies don't use this. They use like a 2-pin. So you're kind of stuck with this cable. If something happens to it, right, you got to find another one like it. It just seems to be the more uncommon style of connector versus like the 2-pin kind that I'll show you on the other ones. And it's just a kind of standard black cord, nothing fancy about it, you know. These, I think I paid like $40 for these, 40 US dollars. They're dual driver, so they have like a woofer and a tweeter, and they sound okay. What I found with these guys was that they were really kind of lacking, in the mid-range, and they kind of sounded scooped. They had a little too much low end in them. So, you know, they worked, but, you know, and again, I know people are going to say, oh, well, you can just adjust your bus EQ or like whatever you're right, and yes you can, but like, you know, the less you have to think about going into whatever board or program you're using to mix and stuff with, you know, the better, right? Like if they sound good just plugging in and not having to mess with anything, that's better, right? So I kind of wanted to move on from these pretty quickly, and so these have just kind of been like a backup set in case something happens to my main set, which is what I'll show you next, and which is, well, they were my main set up until this past week. And so now this will be my backup set, but I'll show you these. So, again, these, you know, they're okay. They work. Do I really recommend them? No. And the reason is going to be because this other thing exists, which is these. These are the KZ10s. And I really like these. Been using them a long time. They have the more common, like, see this right here, this little like 2-pin cable. See if I can get the focus. Yeah, this little like 2-pin cable, which is what like the majority of IEMs tend to have. So the cables are kind of interchangeable. If something breaks, I can get on Amazon or Sweetwater or whatever and just like buy another cable and I'm good to go, right? So that's kind of a plus. This end right here is real robust. Like, you know, I'm not afraid of like bending them or anything like that. They're kind of encapsulated. The overall, and so this was kind of, again, I really like these. I used them for like a year straight, but I'm going to kind of get into some of the reasons why I decided to move on from these. So I have the foam tips on here. So one of the issues that I had with silicone tips was that I would get sweaty and they would start to move around. And sometimes, even like, when you're playing a show, like your head moves, things move, and sometimes the kind of seal these make would kind of open up, even with the foam tips. Now, the foam tips help a lot, but even still with the foam tips, like the actual capsule of the in-ear monitor here isn't very big, and so I could kind of feel them flexing in my ears sometimes, and it would kind of open up. I could hear ambient stuff on the stage that I didn't necessarily want to hear, and then if I moved a certain way, it would kind of go like, and it would like close back in, and so I didn't love that. Another thing that I didn't love is that this cable does not have, like, this looks like it would be an adjustable thing so that you could like cinch them up tight on the back of your head, but it's not. So this cable was real loose on the back of my head, and I didn't really dig that. And again, you can buy a different cable and replace it, but the stock cable it comes with, that was like kind of a big thing to me. I just didn't love that. Another thing that I don't like, and the Behringers had this too, is this is a right angle. So it plugs into my in-ear pack like this, and then it kind of sticks out this way, and I don't know, it felt a little awkward on my back. Sometimes it would get turned like this and be like pushing into me and stuff, and first world problems, right? But like, just, again, using them for a year, playing with them all the time, practices, rehearsals, shows, it's just something I kind of started to notice. The biggest thing, though, that I noticed was playing really long gigs, 3-4 hour shows, right? The KZs, again, they sound good, but after a while, I started to develop a little ear fatigue on these long shows because they kind of have they're kind of like the opposite of the Behringers. They have like a little bit of a harsh mid-range. The mid-range is very out front. And it was, after a while, it was just kind of I would kind of have to go into my master bus and like dip the EQ, dip the mid-range out on the overall mix a little bit to try and kind of soften it some. It just tended to have like a really kind of harsh mid-range. Again, if you're playing a 30-minute set or an hour set, it wasn't like an immediately noticeable type thing. It was just something I kind of started to, after playing for like 3 or 4 hours with these in, I would be like, okay, it's just kind of starting to grate on my ears a little bit. So I was kind of thinking about trying something else out and going and looking for some other, options. And the big thing, though, that these have going for them is that they're only like $50 or $60, so they're not that much more expensive than the Behringers, and they are 5 drivers a piece. Right, so there's 5. I'm not sure exactly the technical breakdown of it all, but like there's like a woofer and then like 4 other drivers in here, and so they disperse the like width of sound and the amount of sound very well. It handles low end good. It handles top end good. They handle mid range well, if like too well even, right? So they're really clear and articulate sounding in-ears for the price, and for $50-$60, I would say like you can't beat these. These are really good in that price range. But I was kind of looking to maybe find something a little more dialed in or like catered just to what I wanted to hear specifically. You know what I mean? Again, not that these are not bad IEMs. They're fantastic. But over the, year or two of me using these, I kind of started to develop some preferences and some things I wanted that these kind of didn't do. So, let's move on to the IEMs I'm using now. And I don't have the boxes for those, but I will kind of just comment that the KZs, they didn't really come in any kind of they just came in like a little box. They didn't even have a bag or a case or anything. Behringers came in a little box. They had that case with them, and it's a decent case, But I found these online, just like a random ad that came across one of my, feeds one day. And, didn't mean to hit the mic there. These are the True, what is it? Look at me, I'm messing up now. Truth Ear. Yeah, Truth Ear. Truth Ear Nova IEMs. And so I was kind of intrigued by these. Like, one, the packaging is cool. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. Like, I have anime tattoos. I'm a weeb, so that caught my attention. But I like the box, and like the stuff that came in it looked really neat. And so, but I was a little hesitant because all of the context I kind of saw the ads in were like gaming and like listening to music, and I'm a live musician, so I was like, I wonder if it would translate live. But like I started, but the more research I did on them, I was like, okay, so this is the box inside the sleeve. I already opened it up, and so when you open it up, you've got more weeby artwork that I dig. But it comes with a bunch of different tips, right? And all this stuff. So you have a bunch of different options. It's got like the tapered silicone tips. It's got full ones. It's got foam ones, which I'm using the foam ones. So that's the packaging. Now let's get to what you really care about here. It comes with a cool bag, and I like that this bag has a clip on it, so you can, like, I have it like clipped inside my guitar vault, just hanging there, so that they're always there, which is cool. And here they are. The Truth Ear Nova. I love the blue shell. Like, the aesthetics were a big thing of these for me. I think they just look cool. And I like this cable, this cloth braided cable. And it's a straight end. So when it plugs into my IEM pack, it just plugs straight in like this, and it doesn't have that angle to it. I like that. This cable's a lot more comfortable. I run my IEMs down my shirt when I play because I do guitar swaps, right? I play multiple guitars in a set, so I can't have the IEMs like over just hanging out. So I have to run them down my shirt. And those rubber cables they were hard to get in, and they would kind of stick to me and stuff like that. This is much more comfortable under my shirt. But these are also 5 drivers, so they have the same amount of, drivers inside of them as the KZs do. But the EQ on these was a little different. So I looked up this again. This is real nerdy stuff here, guys. But I looked up the EQ curve of these, and they have a different EQ curve. And the mids are a little softer. I don't want to say they're like scooped or anything like that, but the mids were just softened a little bit in these. And I found that it was a little less fatiguing on my ears over prolonged sets. It didn't kind of, blow my eardrums out the whole night wearing these for 4 hours and listening to a big loud band mix in them, right? The other thing is that they have a cinch on them, so you can cinch these up as tight as you want behind your head, and they hold in place, which was really good, so it's not just kind of dangling off your back or whatnot. Let's see. Again, it came with a bunch of different tips. I really like the foam tips. And these shells are a little bigger. So if you have a little bigger ear canal space, you might like these because they don't move around in my ears as much. They kind of seal better. And we're talking about, I would even still classify these. So these were a fair bit more expensive than the KZs. They're like $170, I think, on the Truth Ear website. But again, I would still put this in the realm of like a budget IEM. Like, we're not talking about like $2,000 custom molded ear. You know what I mean? Like, yes, obviously you could go buy something like that and have whatever you want. But we're kind of talking within the like generic, made for everybody, like, budget IEM type of thing here, right? So, out of all the things I looked up about these, though, I really thought they might work for me. Like I said, that EQ curve, the top end was a little softened too. The mid range was a little, mellowed out. They're not as harsh sounding to me as the KZs are. And they have that same kind of like dual, pin connector. Now, the one thing I will give the KZs is I think this right here is a little more robust on the KZs. But, we'll see. If I have an issue with this over time, we'll see. But so far, so good. So, yeah. Those are the Truth Ear Novas. And, again, I really like the color. And let's be real here. I wanted something that just kind of looked a little snazzier too. You know, the KZs are real plain, which, I mean, utilitarian, you know, speaking, like, who cares, you know. But I wanted something a little more aesthetically pleasing. But more importantly, I wanted something that was going to be a little easier on my ears over prolonged durations of playing music live, right? So definitely check those out if you have, you know, if you want something that's a little more like musical and not just like flat and kind of harsh. And if you have like a little bigger ear, like I said, these fit better. Now, if you have a smaller ear, this might not be great. You might not even be able to really get them in there and seat them well, you know. So that's why, you know, different companies make different types of things and different products and stuff like that because everybody's different. You know, the KZs, I know people that love the KZs, and I love the KZs. They're great IEMs. I've been using them for a long time. But, you know, you kind of develop your taste over time, and you kind of find, you know, you just kind of, at first, you just kind of pick something, and you're like, okay, I picked this. Over a year of using it, what are the pros, what are the cons, what do I like, what do I not like, and is there something that might kind of, you know, move me on from this and just make things a little easier for me. So that's where I'm at with the IEMs. Like I said, I don't think you can go wrong either way, whether you go with the KZs or something like the Truth Ear Novas. You know, I think you're going to be happy either way. Like I said, these are just kind of, you know, small things in one direction or another. Said the big thing the KZs have going for them is the price. They're really good, and they're 3 times cheaper than, you know what I mean? Like, they're a third of the price of these. But still at $170. And I actually found these on TikTok Shop, because you can find anything on TikTok Shop. And I got a discount, and so I only paid like $125 for them. So, made it a little better of a deal, right? But again, I like the case, and I like the packaging and the box and stuff too. I'm just gonna be real about it. Like, it was cool. I thought it looked neat, and it's got all the different tips and stuff in it. You know, the KZs came with some different tips too. I don't know if they came with that. I don't think they came with that many. I think they came with like another set or something or whatever. But these have a bunch of different tips and a bunch of different styles, and you know, just kind of a little more versatility, so you can try out the different tips and see what fits your ear better and what doesn't. So I do highly recommend the Truth Ear Novas, and I do recommend the KZs as well, and I can't really recommend the Behringers at all. Like I said, dual driver, no mid-range at all, just very kind of like hollow sounding, cheap, you know, and for $20 more you can get the KZs. So that is my video on in-ear monitors. If you have any experience using IEMs live, and you have any other brands or suggestions about like budget IEMs, you know, let's say things under like $250, you know, if you have any kind of suggestions on stuff like that, leave them in the comments. You know, maybe somebody can find something that they're looking for. So hope you guys like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.